Ms. Escobar is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Secretary Wormuth and General McConville. Thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate your service to our country and your time before our committee this morning. And Madam Secretary, I look forward to at some point welcoming you to El Paso and to Fort Bliss. And General McConville, look forward to our visit coming up soon. I have the honor and privilege of representing El Paso, Texas, home to Fort Bliss, America's second largest military installation, largest joint mobilization force generation installation in the Army, and the 1st Armored Division, America's only armored tank division. And I've had the privilege of spending some time visiting with soldiers, not just on base and off base, not just in my district, but outside of my district. And with regard to women in particular, I can tell you I really appreciate your leaning into addressing sexual harassment and sexual assault, because on many fronts we really truly have failed women, and we have to do better. The same thing goes for suicides. And we had a conversation yesterday about the most recent suicide at Fort Bliss, and the tragedy surrounding that suicide. But also, this is the second death in just several months. 2 young women soldiers. And I know that this is a terrible and difficult issue to address. But what is it? In looking back, I appreciate that we now understand very clearly where the chronic issue is and who needs to be provided resources and reinforcement, so to speak. But what, in your view, is happening? What is going on here where we have not done well enough? And what are the first steps to doing better?
Congresswoman, a couple of things. On suicide, we're certainly very concerned about that, and we have a historically high rate of suicide in the Army right now, which is very concerning. You know, often suicides, come about with behavioral health issues, often relationship problems, sometimes financial issues. But I think what we're trying to do through the This Is My Squad initiative, through working on improving our command climate down to the lowest level, working on, trying to introduce evidence-based suicide prevention programs. Some of the things we're doing, I think, will help us get after a range of harmful behaviors, whether it's sexual harassment or whether it's trying to prevent suicide. A lot of it is trying to make sure, as General McConville said, that we've got that golden triangle of, do our soldiers feel connected to their families, connected to their squad mates, and connected to their leaders. And, if they have those connections, we have a better opportunity to get ahead of any potential problems. But this is something I think we're just going to have to continue working on, and it's going to take, I think, consistent year after year focus and effort.
And I appreciate that. One thing that I'd add, but obviously we're not the first institution to deal with this and with this particular age group, as had mentioned, and with the vulnerability of this population. Are we looking essentially outside the box and outside of the DoD for best practices and for advice and support? I appreciate the DoD's response, the Army's response, et cetera, but there are institutions outside of the U.S. military who have had to grapple with this as well, and are we leaning on them at all?
Yes, I think we are, as I said, trying to really look outside the department for evidence-based suicide prevention programs and to learn from other institutions. That we have a pilot program running at a couple of major installations that's focused on the suicide challenge in particular, but we absolutely should be looking to every possible source of good ideas outside of the Army and the Department of Defense.
And in my last 30 seconds, the last thing I'll add, we've had this conversation about infrastructure on Fort Bliss, the barracks, the railhead, and I really look forward to exploring with you and would seek your commitment to really taking a long, hard look at the cost-benefit analysis there, especially for the railhead, the lack of investment in that and what it's costing us in the long term, the longer we wait, but also the barracks. Clearly, it's a chronic issue. I've heard it from other colleagues as well on this committee, but really would love for you to see those barracks on Fort Bliss. They are in desperate need of investment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Time has expired.